There is a moment many people experience, though few ever say it out loud. You don't eat excessively, you don't train lightly, you may even be more disciplined than before, yet your body still clings to fat like its life depends on it. That feeling pushes people toward a false conclusion. My metabolism must be broken. But biology doesn't work in terms of broken or not broken. It works on signals. Your body is not a faulty machine. It is an extremely intelligent adaptive system. When the surrounding environment constantly sends signals of abundance, eating all day, sugar always available, prolonged stress, disrupted sleep rhythms, the system automatically shifts into defense mode. In that mode, the primary mission is not aesthetics or leanness, but storage. Fat is no longer the enemy. It becomes a survival vault. The crucial point is this: your body does not burn fat because you want it to, nor because you try harder. It burns fat only when it is biologically permitted to do so. That permission is controlled by hormones. As long as storage signals remain active, every effort on top is like pressing the gas pedal while the handbrake is still on. You may feel more exhausted, more irritable, but you won't move forward. A healthy body is meant to be metabolically flexible. When sugar is present, it uses sugar. When sugar disappears, it seamlessly switches to fat. The problem is that many people have lived for too long in a state of constant sugar availability, to the point that the system has forgotten how to open its own fat stores. Fat isn't stubborn, the switch was never flipped. When low energy signals appear clearly enough and persist long enough, a very different chain of events begins at the cellular level. The cell recognizes that energy is no longer abundant, and instead of panicking, it chooses a smarter response, upgrading its energy-producing capacity. It activates pathways that force fat usage, recycles old cellular components, and most importantly, builds more mitochondria, the internal power plants of your body. This is the true dividing line between people who burn fat easily and those who struggle. Not diet choice, but the number of active furnaces. That is why simple calorie counting so often fails. Two people can eat the same amount and train the same way, yet get very different results because they are running two different biological systems. One is small and conservative. The other is large and ready to expend energy. However, the body is also highly sensitive to extremes. If deprivation signals persist continuously, it will activate an even deeper conservation mode, slowing the entire system down. This is why many people feel worse the less they eat and more sluggish the harder they train. The solution is not endless restriction, but signal cycling periods of challenge followed by periods of safety. When the brain does not perceive threat, it allows the system to operate at a higher level. There is also a detail many people overlook. Not all fat tissue is the same. Some fat exists specifically to burn energy as heat, not to store it. When the nervous system receives the appropriate signals, this tissue becomes more active, increasing energy expenditure even when you are doing nothing special. No extra willpower required, just the right signal. At an even deeper level, many people are stuck not because they eat too much, but because the brain no longer recognizes stored fat. Chronic inflammation in central control regions distorts satiety signals, making the body behave as if energy were scarce. The result is hunger, fatigue, and storage. When the internal environment calms down, appetite often decreases naturally without force. Finally, there is a foundational factor that is often ignored: timing. Eating, sleeping, and moving out of sync with the circadian clock sends conflicting signals to organs. When these rhythms are restored to a natural light-dark cycle, the system repairs itself more efficiently, especially during the hours when you are not eating and are at rest. All of this leads to a conclusion that is simple, but uncomfortable. The body does not respond to effort. It responds to signals. When the signal is correct, fat loss stops being a battle. It becomes a natural outcome. And very likely, what you need is not to push a little harder, but to send the right biological message again. When the message changes, the body follows. There is a crucial piece that many discussions about metabolism either avoid or explain vaguely. And without addressing it, many people can do everything technically right and still feel their body refusing to cooperate. That missing piece is the nervous system. Metabolism is not just a story of fat, sugar, or hormones. It is constantly supervised by the brain, especially the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. If the brain is in a state of high alert anxiety, chronic stress, shallow sleep, constant stimulation, then no matter how accurate your biological signals are, the body will still prioritize energy conservation. To the brain, a lean body that feels out of control is more dangerous than a heavier body that feels safe. This is why some people eat very clean, train very consistently, yet as soon as stress becomes chronic, fat returns quickly, not because they did something wrong, but because the nervous system is issuing a defensive command. Elevated cortisol does not only raise blood sugar, it also reduces sensitivity to fat-burning signals. When the brain does not feel safe, it will not allow energy expenditure. Another point almost no one explains clearly is that deep sleep quality matters more than total hours slept. Deep sleep is when the parasympathetic nervous system dominates. Growth hormone is released, and fat tissue is permitted to release energy. If you sleep long enough but your brain remains stimulated by blue light, phones, late eating, or racing thoughts, biology still interprets this as prolonged wakefulness. In that state, fat burning is not a priority. There is also a common misconception. Many people believe that the harder you train, the better your metabolism becomes. But for a system that is already locked, intense training often adds more biological stress. When the foundation is unstable, high intensity can push the defensive system even harder. In many cases, gentle, steady, repetitive movement, performed in a low-energy state, sends a far more effective signal than aggressive burn workouts. Another frequently overlooked factor is the daily microenvironment. Constant warmth, sitting for long hours, and the absence of biological variation mean the body is never required to adapt. Biology is not activated by total comfort, but by small, brief, controlled challenges. When the environment is always flat and predictable, the body defaults to conservation. Finally, there is something deeply psychological that is, in fact, entirely biological. Guilt. When you believe your body is weak, lazy, or undisciplined, the brain responds with chronic background stress. This quietly disrupts all metabolic signaling downstream. When you shift to viewing the body as a system responding logically to its environment, stress decreases, and that alone has improved fat-burning capacity in many people. When you assemble all of these pieces, a very different picture emerges from what social media usually presents. Metabolism is not repaired through force. It is unlocked by delivering enough of the right signals in the right context for long enough that the brain trusts it is safe to expend energy. If what you've just heard changes how you see your body, not as an enemy, but as a system that needs to be understood, that is exactly why this channel exists. Here, we don't talk about hacks or miracles. We talk about the real biological logic behind the human body. Subscribe to the channel so we can continue peeling back each layer from metabolism and hormones to the nervous system and the ways modern life quietly distorts human biology. And if you've ever felt that your body doesn't listen, leave a comment. Real data and real experiences are what allow this conversation to go deeper, become more accurate, and be more useful for everyone. Before this video comes to an end, hold on to one single conclusion, not to memorize it, but to help you stop blaming yourself every time your body doesn't respond the way you expect. Your metabolism is not betraying you. It is accurately reflecting the signals you send it every day. Throughout this journey, the most important factor was never fat, body weight, or the number on a scale. It lies in how your body reads your living environment. Biology does not operate on moral ideas of right or wrong. It only understands safe or unsafe. When all surrounding signals suggest constant energy abundance while stress remains chronic, sleep is fragmented, and circadian rhythms are misaligned, the most rational choice the body can make is to hold on. Storing fat is not a sign of weakness. It means your system is doing its survival job correctly. What keeps many people stuck is not a lack of knowledge, but a misunderstanding of the relationship between effort and outcome. We are taught that more effort leads to more results. Biology does not work that way. Effort applied to the wrong signals only creates more pressure, and pressure is exactly what tightens the lock further. Not every door opens by pushing harder. Some doors open only when you stop pushing and change how you knock. Once you begin to see metabolism as a signaling system, many things become clear. You understand why some people experience rapid changes from small habit adjustments. You also understand why others do everything right, yet go nowhere. The difference is not willpower, it is the biological context the body is operating within. Another key point is this. No single signal is powerful enough to fix the entire system. Not one meal, one workout, or one habit. The body is not convinced by isolated actions. It is convinced by repeated patterns. When enough signals consistently communicate the same message that energy is well managed, that daily rhythms are stable, that stress no longer dominates, the system finally allows itself to unlock. And when it unlocks, many changes happen naturally. Hunger becomes less aggressive, energy stabilizes, the desire to move appears without force. Food control is no longer a psychological battle. Not because you became stronger, but because the brain stops sending emergency signals. Perhaps the most unfortunate aspect of modern metabolic discussions is how we've turned metabolism into a moral issue. People with excess weight are labeled undisciplined. Those who can't lose fat are accused of not trying hard enough. But when you understand the body as an adaptive biological system, those labels become meaningless. There are no bad bodies. Only bodies responding logically to the wrong environment. This video does not promise transformation in a few days. Its purpose is to offer you a different lens. A lens that helps you stop fighting your body and start working with your biology. When your perspective changes, your actions change as well, becoming lighter, more precise, and more sustainable. If there is one thing to take with you from this video, let it be this. Don't ask, what more do I need to push? Ask, what signals am I sending every day? The second question is the real biological question. This channel exists to help you understand those signals, layer by layer, without fear, without oversimplification, and without selling cheap hope. If these insights help you understand your body more clearly, subscribe so we can continue exploring the topics that many people live with every day but rarely see explained correctly. And if you've ever felt that your body doesn't listen, leave a comment not to complain, but to share real-life data. Those real stories are what give this conversation value, realism, and the ability to go beyond familiar slogans. Metabolism doesn't need to be fixed. It needs to be understood. When understanding goes deep enough, the rest happens naturally.